If you play without unlimited money, then you know that money can sometimes be a bit tight. Draken experienced quite the same effect recently. As you can see, the city's budget went into kind of a decline. But for good reason. I mean, we are paying for this huge pedestrian zone on the island without making proper use of it yet. So today we are going to fix that. But not only that, because if everything went as planned for the tourist trap I had in mind for the island, then we are also going to find out what happens when we stack all the tourism related DLC on top of each other. Hello peeps, Drugger here, welcome back to the next episode of Building Draken, just flying over the suburban area we did in the last live streams. Most of these houses still need to level up, so this entire area hopefully is able to absorb all the residential demand while we are building up the island. Reason I was doing this flyover though was because the first thing we need to do before we could continue was laying down lots and lots of pedestrian pathways, and as laying down roads, this is probably the least interesting part of the entire video, which is why I rather show you how to break up the grid with, for example, this small monorail station build. Giving me a little time to excuse myself for the recent lack of Cities Skylines content, reason being I wanted this to be a complete episode. And it kinda turned into a lot of work, so basically I bit off more than I could chew. Thus the delay. I hate it when video production feels like work, so I hope you understand that to make this a good one, it needed the extra time. Now for the future, I decided to stream much more and also making way smaller projects that actually could fit within a live stream. Or just spread bigger projects out over several streams. Raising two questions. First, when would be your preferred day of the week for such streams? And second, what is your preferred live stream length? And now with the zoom out, ta-da! I can reveal that magically all the pedestrian pathways we need are already present, meaning we have our foundations laid out and can get into the more interesting parts of today's episode. Next, we need to provide all the necessary services to really make everything else we want to move in. So I decided we need another hospital right here where it covers the biggest area, and probably also a small clinic up here. The firefighters and police, well, let's move those up there and then plant as many as needed to cover the entire area in green. Simple, right? Okay, then spooky death care. Cemeteries would use up too much of our precious space, so we just plop down a few crematories. Done. Okay, since I want to keep the game running, I should now fix those monorail lines. I want two of them, one going clockwise, the other counterclockwise on this entire monorail loop. With such a setup, you definitely want to split the clockwise and counterclockwise lines to go on separate tracks on the terminal stations. Okay, now would be the time for parks, but remember, we also want to use some of our unique buildings, so let's have a look which we can use of them first. Actually, I prepared a list. We start off with the Statue of Shopping. That requires that we have less than -1 money. Definitely gonna go for that. So that one has quite a small radius, so I want to tuck that into the corner here next to the monorail station. Next, I thought using about the helicopter park, which requires one of each helicopter depot. I didn't use them a lot because I kind of find them ugly, except of the fire one that was kind of cool, grabbing the water and anyway. So I guess that should do it. Also a pretty small radius, so let's put it right next to the hospital. Then comes the cigarette garden. Its requirements are having 30 parks and plazas. Given the size of the city, I think we might have that barely. Because this has such a massive radius, let's put it right above the zoo here. What I would also consider a perfect fit is the sea and skyscraper tower, which requires to have one of each harbor type. We covered that. So let's put that right down at the water with its nose pointing to the water to overlook the cruise and cargo ships. Then we still have to place our tourism related uniques, for example the fantastic fountain, which unlocks after 500 tourists having used our taxis. cities. Now, transport overview shows that we are transporting about 10 tourists in a week, meaning within a year of playtime, we should have unlocked that legit. I guess it is safe to assume we did unlock that goal since our taxi services have been in the city for quite a while. I'd like to have this fountain here, but I had to figure out its proper placement first, for I wanted it to be in the middle center of the square. There we go. Or better like that. Actually, I also wanted to put in the driving range, but I really doubt we have those 5,000 squares of tourism specialization. But what we can definitely put in is one of those riding stables, which then would unlock the unique zoo building. Well, we are not going to put that on the island since we already have a big Park Life zoo here, which by the way leveled up to level 5. Meaning we are legitimately fulfilling the requirement for the last Park Life unique building, the Statue of Colossalus. Great unique building as it increases the stay duration of tourists by 20%. And what better place to put that than right next to our harbor on the island so all the ferry users can enjoy it. Now this means we also completed all of the unique buildings from the Park Life DLC. So a monumental moment is coming up later in this episode. But before we are totally going astray, we will need to ensure a few more unique buildings. I am talking about the plazas and promenades DLC unlockables, of course, and as we can see, we need to work for these a bit. So we need to zone and draw areas and all that stuff, and as you hear it already, you may have guessed it, it is time-lapse time. Cut! First of all, that's a boring time-lapse, and second, that was probably the biggest mistake I made because... Anyway, let's continue with the regular video because we have to redo that. Okay, so while that was growing, some concerning developments occurred. Pretty much everyone wants to visit the island right now, so all means of transportation heading there are at their limits, including our goods logistics. Zoning that much in one go was a big mistake. Unaware of that, I placed our monument at a predefined place and then noticed the mess I caused, including a corrupted save file which kept forgetting transport lines. That did cost me 2 weeks to figure out. I had to roll back. Actually, the castle of Lord Chirpwick is a great monument as it increases the area of effect of all other unique buildings. So, back to the save that works. As you can see, this little area ate up 70% of our magic teleportation capacity already. Gladly, I did not promise to finish the island in this episode, but show you what happens when we stack all the tourism related DLC on top of each other. So how about we start by placing some cabins from the hotels and retreats DLC. Because I really think that's the perfect spot for them, like right next to the harbor, a quiet area, you know, get there with your family, have a good time. You'd still be close to all the buzz on the island. But here we embrace the beach, nature, a little bit of sightseeing, and that's it. I'd say this is a really solid foundation for our retreats chain. I want to place another hotel because every spot we do not have to zone will help us finishing the island without overloading our logistics. A small hotel here with the beautiful view over the harbor could really help by adding another 900 something into our pockets. Speaking of which, we all know that we are gonna make more profits with the higher tiered items. To unlock the last tier, we actually need to get to 40k profits, so I just plopped down a few of these guys. That one is actually really tall. I really wonder what this next tier item is going to look like. So to reach that milestone, how about we put in one of these lovely boat hotels? Okay, to actually get its popularity up, we need to zone a bit more commercial. Hopefully that's gonna do it. As we are waiting for our newly placed hotels to fill up and by doing so unlocking the next level, I was thinking these buildings are going to become even bigger. Which reminds me about building the downtown skyline, where we used up pretty much all of the skyscrapers and then used the Reco mod to actually turn them into actual working buildings instead of just another kind of park. Since we still need to get more jobs into our office pedestrian area to unlock the office zone landmark, I'm wondering if that would also work to push that work count over the edge. Because then I'd say we rather shape shape this nicely with some of the not so high skyscraper versions and create a second skyline on the island. Probably only counts taken jobs. Let's wait for this to update. Okay, let's recheck. Yes, that works! Now here's another thing I wanted to test out. To understand this, we need to take a closer look at the zoning. So this zone does IT cluster for offices and wall-to-wall for commercial. Whereas this zone does wall-to-wall for offices because the wall-to-wall buildings are a nice looking baseline, so to speak. But then it makes commercials being the tourism specialization. And as some of these hotels are in the same pedestrian area that has the office specialization, now having a big IT cluster building in there producing goods, we could manage that this service point building is going to use its trucks capacity to shove the goods from the IT cluster buildings to the hotels. So this service point does not require deliveries from the industrial zone, whatever. Doesn't require goods deliveries anymore. And should we manage to crank that up a little further, we actually could use the service point as a source of goods. Given the proximity to the other service point for the big commercial pedestrian area, it is highly likely that it will drop off these additionally created goods there, creating a very effective logistics route. Not sure if this could be exploited further, but that at least already would be very neat if we could turn this service point basically into a source of goods, as this surely would help stabilize the other zone's demands. Now I wanted to create a nice skyline when viewed at from the mainland, so I placed a few more of those little skyscrapers, but this time leaving them in the so to speak commercial pedestrian zone, so they as well could provide their goods to that zone, hoping that the internal redistribution of goods is more effective than having to provide all the goods for this zone from our industrial areas. Now we should have unlocked our pedestrian area office landmark. Yes! And also the next tier of our hotels. Indeed! So let's make good use of them. Haha, totally nailed that time lapse. I had to clean up issues in the city and then started rearranging stuff a little on the island, growing tall buildings where they are needed to shape this, and I hope you agree, beautiful skyline. It's not done yet because we still need to place the final hotels, but I think we are going in the right direction. In essence, I moved this conference hotel from there to over here because it fitted height-wise, and then zoned the area around it to max out its required influences. And you know what? Zoning IT cluster offices really helps with keeping the pedestrian zone's goods demands low. So let's plop those final beauties. The design hotel goes here, and then let's check what it requires and then adjust its surroundings. And now probably my favorite one, the Heritage Hotel. This goes on the edge, right over there.
Reason and rhyme, grand and glorious, living the dream, yours and mine, euphoria, hide and seek, reason and rhyme, grand and glorious, living the dream, yours and mine, euphoria.
Okay, we still have to clarify the actual point. Was it worth it?
Hell yeah.